Brilliant.
And first at 4 today, flooding up and down the Jersey Shore as a nor'easter lashes the area with high winds and rain, as well as some icing in the suburbs. Our live team coverage begins today with News 10's Paul Jackson in Ventnor. Paul.
Well, the Atlantic Ocean is a mean ocean tonight. The winds very high earlier. Maximum gust at 68 miles per hour. High winds, stinging rain causing... The cold waters of the Atlantic surged into the Wildwoods in the wee hours of the morning, lapping over seawalls and flowing into the streets of this resort town. A state of emergency was declared in North Wildwood, where the National Guard was called in to help. What kind of conditions are you finding?
A lot of flooding. It's higher than I've ever seen.
It was much higher a few hours before.
Just 8 of 23 students attended Mrs. Goldberg's second grade class at Glenwood Elementary School in Wildwood. You afraid it was going to come in the classroom?
Yeah, we would swim. We'd have a lesson in swimming.
In fact, some students literally had to be carried away from school today.
It's a terrible storm. We've had some bad ones, but this is right up there with a lot of the bad ones. Normally, we would have a northeaster and maybe a little water in the west, but this one came in with a lot of wind and a lot of rain.
Gus Mason is Emergency Management Director for North Wildwood. Is the danger over now?
No.
There's currently 4 feet of water on top of the ground right now, and the next high tide due in at about 8:30, so trouble ahead for the Wildwoods. We're live in Ventnor. Paul Jackson, News 10.
Paul, I guess the high winds down there maybe contributed to the problems we were having getting your signal in the beginning. We thought we had lost you for a second.
Yes, the winds have actually died down just a bit, but it was incredible. We were doing what you call a stand-up next to a stop sign a little earlier when the stop sign was ripped out of the ground and just flew away. Winds close to hurricane force out here. As you can tell, it's blowing.
And the wind, just to make its presence known, just blew your top off there a second ago. Thank you, Paul. In the northern and western suburbs, the winter storm brought some morning ice and a winter weather advisory. Ice is forming on trees in the Doylestown area, leaving small icicles hanging from the branches. The grass is also coated in ice, making for a crunchy feeling underfoot. Even the signs warning about ice are icing up.
But the question now, when will the storm leave and what's ahead for us next?
Well, the man of the hour, John Bolaris in the Weather Center with details. John.
Yeah, Larry and Renee, winds were gusting not to hurricane force, but to tropical storm force down the shore. Last night and all day today, gusting, the highest gust we got so far was 49, near 50 miles per hour at Atlantic City, and 49 at Stone Harbor. And you have another round down the shore, folks, of more flooding that will take place this evening. Let's check it out for you right now. We have a coastal flood warning for Sussex County in Delaware, Atlantic and Cape May counties in Jersey. And we also have some flooding that will take place in Monmouth and Ocean counties in Jersey as well. Now, tidal flooding in Cape May and Atlantic County will be running 3 to 4 feet above normal. That is substantial. And then in Monmouth and Ocean counties, it'll be running about 2 to 3 feet above normal. In Sussex County in Delaware, it'll be running about 4 feet to as high as 5 feet above normal. And that will be taking place this evening. High tides rolling in at Atlantic City at 7:37, flooding in the back bays 2 hours after that. In Cape May at 8:10, flooding in the back bays 2 hours after that. Rehoboth Beach, it rolls in at 8:42, flooding about 2 hours after that. But things will subside later on tonight. I'll have more details for the remainder of the work week and what's left with this storm. Larry?
All right, John, see you in a few minutes. Now let's get a check on early evening traffic to see if this weather is having an impact.
It usually does. Mark Davies, live in the News 10 Metro Traffic Center. How is it, Mark?
Good afternoon, Ray and Larry. We're doing actually fairly well, all things considered. There's ice out there, but most of it's just on the trees. Let's look at 76 and 476 in Conshohocken. You can see there's kind of a white touch to the trees there. They're kind of icy, and some of the lines are iced as well. But for now, traffic's getting by on the major roads with just wet. Watch yourself on some of the on and off ramps, bridges, and overpasses. The Schuylkill there at the Blue Route, westbound 76 at Gulf Mills, accident off to the side. A lot of stop and go, more stop than go on the Schuylkill Expressway. Look at 95 in Delaware County by 320 now. As you can see, the road surface there just wet. We're getting by in Delaware County okay. Once you get north in the city, slows the Ben Franklin Bridge to about Girard Avenue and Betsy or Austin north of Bridge. The Ben Franklin Bridge, 2 lanes into Philadelphia, and one of them was blocked for a good while by a disabled van. That's now been cleared up. A map of South Jersey to show you some delays southbound on 42, basically between 295 and South of Creek Road. In the News 10 Metro Traffic Center, I'm Mark Davies for News 10.
All right, Mark, a heavy dose of carbon monoxide.
Weather Channel's program schedule may be different than normal during the next half hour due to special weather coverage. Stay with us. A comprehensive update is just ahead on WeatherScope. Right now, your local forecast.
This special edition of WeatherScope is sponsored by Fancy Feast Gourmet Cat Food. Good taste is easy to recognize.
This is a special edition of WeatherScope.
Good afternoon and welcome to this special edition of WeatherScope. I'm Dan Atkinson in the Forecast Center, where we continue to track an intense mid-Atlantic storm that is producing a lot of strong winds, plenty of rain, coastal flooding, and some diminishing snow. Snow just about over for now, but we'll take a look at the totals from earlier in the storm. First off, let's show you what it was like earlier in Norfolk, Virginia, where the storm brought as much as 2 inches of rain. And as you can see, that produced localized street flooding, causing problems for motorists. So be careful as you head out in the Norfolk area. Winds are gusting to 35 to 45 miles per hour, and the rain will continue through tonight. And this was the scene in Philadelphia earlier today. Quite a wet, cold, and rainy day for you there. Many of you had a hard time keeping your umbrellas from blowing inside out as you walked downtown. There were wind gusts of 30 to 40 miles per hour, and you in Philadelphia can expect light rain for the remainder of the day. Here's a look at the surface map showing the storm system which is producing all this inclement weather and, in fact, some threatening weather conditions. And along with the precipitation moving up the coast, also have some cold air in place. You're 36 degrees now in Boston, New York 38. Wind chill at New York, you are a 8-degree wind chill. And the wind is causing problems along the coast with marine warnings in effect over a broad area, as you see. We're joined here in the Forecast Center by Colin Marquis, Weather Channel meteorologist. And Colin, this storm began, of course, dumping a lot of snow. Now the threat has changed.
Yeah, we really have switched the emphasis here more to a heavy rain, but particularly potential for another round of some coastal flooding along about the time of high tide, early mid-evening tonight, particularly South Jersey and Delaware yet again.
Well, taking a look at this satellite view, help us to locate the center of the storm.
Okay, the center of the storm is really offshore from the Virginia Capes by about 100 miles or so. And Dan, that storm is going to take a track kind of out to sea, east to northeast, and not really heading up the coast. So it's good news for folks along the coast of Massachusetts and Maine, for instance. Not going to really get into the heavy rain. The wind will be picking up later on for them as well, though.
Now, you mentioned that threat of coastal flooding and beach erosion and so forth. This gives us an indication here of where the advised areas actually are.
And actually, the latest advisories are that areas south of the Virginia border are no longer in the coastal flood advisories, but certainly from South Jersey on down to and including the Delmarva Peninsula. This evening, along about the time of the cycle of high tide, and it will range anywhere from about 7:30 to about 9 o'clock right along the coast, expecting another round of 2 to 3 feet above average as far as the high water mark. And in the back bays behind the barrier islands, we're going to delay that high tide by about an hour or two, so until about 10:30 or 11 expect real high water, and that would even be a little bit higher and right along the coast, expecting maybe 2 to 4 feet above average for those areas in the back bay. So it looks like another round where we could be experiencing some minor to moderate coastal flooding again into the evening hours, and by about midnight it looks like we'll have much improving conditions, Dan.
And as the winds pile up the water along the shores, we're also seeing of course the rain continuing to fall. And
that's right, and the heaviest rain right now, Dan, is falling from about the Atlantic City area back to eastern portions of Virginia. And it looks like through about 8 or 9 this evening, we'll continue to have that area of heavy rainfall. Then as the whole storm system pulls out, we'll see a great diminishing as far as the rainfall rates. Probably another ½ inch to an inch is going to do it for the coast of the mid-Atlantic coast.
And some of the roughest weather in the past hour or so has been around Atlantic City.
It certainly has, and a couple of things going on here. We do have this intense band of rainfall just staying offshore. It's having eyes on Atlantic City, but at the same time the whole storm system is pulling away. There is some heavy rain in the Atlantic City area, some gusty winds, and that will continue in the short term, in the next hour or two.
I see. Well, thanks, Colin. And of course, earlier this storm dumped a lot of snow. Let's take a look at some of the snow totals. The top of the list has just been revised, now topping Beech Mountain, which had 40 inches. We've got a report from Ghent, West Virginia, with 42 inches of snow. So snow is over for now, pretty much, with this storm system. We'll be keeping you updated, though, as the threat of flooding continues, particularly. And if you're going to be away from your TV set and want to know more about the weather here in the States as well as around the world, join us at weather.com. And now we join Rich Johnson in the studio for the update on the latest weather and the forecast for the nation.
Really? All right, thank you, Dan. As we look across the country, first of all, national conditions, then we'll get more specific as we look at the Midwest, eventually the West. Here it is. Current conditions out there showing a itsy-bitsy low-pressure center over Iowa with a little bit of a cold front here, a baby front right here. It does have some freezing drizzle and a little bit of sleet rain mix up to around the Twin Cities, so look out for that. Some of the roadways could be a bit slick. Otherwise, in the west, the rain just starting to come on in. Temperatures today are not terribly cold, actually. 70s across Texas, 70 from Dallas all the way to San Antonio, just above freezing at the Twin Cities, so above average most areas around the country. Here it is in the Midwest. You can see a weak system here. Temperatures are not cold. It's freezing in Green Bay, close to that at the Twin Cities. To the north, 20s. It's usually quite a bit colder than this. We do have a bit of that mix now. West central Wisconsin, south and southeastern Minnesota. To the west, the rain just starting to come in. A little bit of snow for the mountains, but snow levels high again today. You can see it's 56 today in Seattle, 54 Boise, 54 Denver, also Salt Lake. How about that? Another mild day as that flow continues to come in off of the Pacific, and as long as that continues to happen, we are not going to see it get cold anytime soon. Maybe next week there'll be a change, but we have plenty of time to discuss that. Well, in the west, a little bit of rain. Again, you can see not much out there. A few scattered showers with snow, of course, in the Cascades, but at higher elevations this time around. What's going to greet you as you head home from work? Well, we'll find the rain slowly pushing onshore to the west. In the east, our big bad low still cranking up off Virginia Capes, off of Cape Henry, Cape Charles, moving east-northeast. So for you in New England, close call, but not this time. You're probably thinking, all right, about time one of these things have moved on out. A little bit of sleet occasionally mixing in, but mostly the rain for the rest of this evening. The snow is over with, but it is still very deep in areas of North Carolina mountains, still up toward West Virginia. Precip forecast looking like this. Again, tomorrow morning, that low moving away, nipping New England. In the west coast, rain showers coming into the Sacramento Valley, but that'll be after midnight. Notice up to midnight, the rain heading to the Washington and Oregon coast, but into California, that's going to be later tonight, toward tomorrow morning. And still some heavy amounts of rain. I still think the heaviest amount will probably be southern Delaware, eastern shore of Maryland, all the way down to southern New Jersey, and maybe down toward the Tidewater, still going to see a bunch. Low temps, not very cold. Typically this time of year, 30s are a bit farther to the south, but with that little low pressure center, actually a bit of a southwesterly flow, so it's going to be somewhat mild. Cold into the Rockies below 0, but that is rather typical. Some of the Colorado Rockies, those valley areas, could be significantly colder, by some cases 20 degrees or more than surrounding locations. So temperatures not that cold the next day or two, and we're finally getting rid of the big mid-Atlantic storm. Well, coming up next here at the Weather Channel, we have TravelWise. On TravelWise, I'll show you where the worst road conditions will be seen this evening. We'll talk more about the rain and some of that snow.